Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform where we talk with a variety of teachers, entrepreneurs, spiritualists, uplifters, givers, shakers, and serenaders. Everyone has a lesson to learn and a lesson to share. Let's use our life experiences to enrich someone's heart, mind, spirit, and soul. Through sharing our experiences, we can be a learning inspiration for one another. I'm your host, Chris Levens. Let's welcome today's guest. Today's guest is Tyler Foley. Tyler Foley is an accomplished film and stage performer and has been acting in film and television since he was 6 years old after his father passed away suddenly in a motor vehicle accident. He has appeared in productions including Freddy Vs Jason, Door to Door, Carrie, and the musical Ragtime. Tyler is passionate about helping others confidently take the stage and impact an audience with their stories. He is currently the managing director of Total Buy-In and author of the #1 best-selling book, The Power to Speak Naked. Let's welcome Tyler.
Well, thank you for that, Chris. I appreciate the warm introduction.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking some time to be a guest here on Glass Half Full. We really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to jump right on in if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like to ask all of my guests, I feel that our lives are in spiritual design. Can you share your life layout or blueprint with everyone? How you grew up, where, your family lifestyle?
Yeah. So it's funny because when I look back on my life, it seems a very straight road. Like each waypoint is direct. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything needed to happen. But if I was to have projected that forward from 3, 4 years old, it would seem winding and circuitous. So as your introduction pointed out, I've been on stage acting since I was 6 years old. My father passed away in a single vehicle motor accident very early on in my life. But despite that, I mean, I was raised obviously then by a single mother, but I never lacked for anything. I grew up middle class, and had never lacked or wanted for anything. Got to go to a fine arts high school, graduated from that, continued on in film and TV for most of my 20s, retired from that to go back to school, got an engineering discipline, worked for myself. I started my own company after I graduated university, and really enjoyed working on my own, working for myself, having my own business. Unfortunately, that business collapsed within 3 years, as apparently a very large majority of new enterprises do. I was a statistical casualty, and that didn't pan out very well. But I managed to, as I always do, pivot, find new direction, new purpose. I ended up getting a job as a safety professional, and really, really backwards worked my way in there. And interestingly enough, found myself excelling in it because of the work that I had done in film and television, particularly the small amount of time that I spent doing stunts.
Wow, nice.
Really armed me to be a successful safety professional. And then a full circle. As I grew within the safety profession, I became more known as a keynote presenter and keynote speaker than I was an actual consultant,
Mm-hmm.
and then a trainer as well. And what I ended up training a lot of had nothing to do with safety and everything to do with public speaking and communication and connecting with people. And all of that was formulated from 6 years old, being on stage, learning stagecraft.
Wow.
And so I look back at my life and go, of course, this is where I was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some definite grace, some divinity, as you said, a blueprint that mapped that out, that at 6 years old, I would have never understood or never seen. But looking back now, coming up 4 decades later, I can vividly see how every piece was integral into me getting to where I am today.
Yes, that's powerful. That's powerful. Nice. So you do so many things. You're involved with lots of things currently. But I want to touch base about your book, The Power to Speak Naked. How did this masterpiece come about?
This masterpiece. Yes, this large tome of 100 some odd pages. It really came about from people asking me how I do what I do. And usually what that question, the undertone of that is, how is it that I can get up on stage and speak as confidently as I can, be as engaging as I am, just to be as comfortable as I am on stage? Because for most people, a stage is the most terrifying place that they could be, and they don't understand how you can be comfortable on the stage.
True.
And for me, I grew up there. It is my place of comfort. It is where I go to feel most like myself. And it's because I started so young that I didn't know that I had to be afraid of the stage.
Nice.
And I think that is a real key point for me, is that fear is a learned behavior.
Yes, it is.
And, anybody who's had a small child, particularly an infant, and as they grow into a toddler, children have no fear. They everything is new to them. They don't understand consequence. And it's only through patterning our behaviors when we react as caregivers and adults towards a child that they start to learn, this is a thing I should be cautious of. Even if they've never actually experienced the consequence, they understand this person has said no. And so we have to be very careful of what we're projecting to our kids, because a lot of people, it's scary being on stage. Well, why? Why is it scary? For me, it's the most freeing, most beautiful place that I could be. And so I wanted to express that. I wanted people to learn my side, because I love the stage. And so I'm not afraid to be on stage. That's not to say that I haven't experienced stage fright. I have very clear, distinct moments in my life where I have had stage fright, where I have experienced all of those feelings, that the dry mouth, the hot and cold all at the same time, and losing what you were going to say, and being terrified of how people are going to perceive me. Like, all of those things are things that I've experienced, but they're few and far between, because I don't allow myself to sit in what is really judgment. And because stage for me is such a rewarding place to be, I find it fun. And so the book came about because everybody would ask, well, how? And I would go, I don't know. I just show up and do this thing, and it's really fun. So I had to start to reverse engineer my own process. Like, why am I comfortable? What makes it comfortable? What can I do to show somebody else how easy and simple it is? Because it really is. And what ended up happening is, I've done so many training sessions on this. And as an actor, I mean, I will never turn video off. I have thousands of hours of video of me doing training sessions and on stage and plays and TV and film and all of that. Like, I've just got thousands of hours of footage of me.
Nice.
So we took the footage of the training sessions and transcribed the audio from those training sessions, and then compiled them into the book, so that it became a really, really easy to read manuscript.
Nice.
Because it's how I literally, when you read the book, you're reading my voice, because I spoke it. I didn't write it. I spoke the book. And that made A, the process really, really easy. And B, it makes reading the book real easy, because it's like I'm talking to you because I am talking to you.
Nice. And it's short. It's 160 pages, so it's not a long read.
Yeah, no, and big text too. Like we cheated with this book, it's I think in the print version. So the digital version is about 160 pages, and in the print version, if you were to go to an actual bookstore, it's like 134.
Oh, okay.
And it really, really, really easy to pick through. And yeah, I to be honest, every once in a while I go back and reread it.
Oh, that's cool.
Mostly because we're writing a second version. I want to do a revised version, particularly because in this current one, I don't really talk a lot about video. Okay. Most of it is stagecraft. Like, how do you do the things to a live audience that's actually physically in front of you? And now there's a lot more virtual component, and I'm actually considerably better on camera than I am on stage, and I'm great on stage, but camera is really where I come alive. And so there's a lot more that I can impart, and I've ended up doing a whole bunch more training in the last 18 months on camera and film craft versus stagecraft, and how to really be comfortable in front of a camera, how to light it so that you look good.
Now that's
like
important.
I look pro when I show up on film, always, because I'm vain, and because I know how. Because after 35 years in film and television,
who doesn't want to look good, right? Yeah,
right. Well, that's exactly it. Like even down to making sure that my hair is styled properly before I pop on to any Zoom meeting is just how I go.
Nice.
I'm always dressed as though I'm on stage. But to be able to offer some of that into the book and really go above and beyond what we've already done. I mean, it already hit #1 bestseller. So
yes, congratulations.
There's no reason why I can't offer more information. I feel it's I'm duty bound now to the small following that I've started to put together to make sure that they have the most current and up-to-date information from the big old noggin of Tyler.
Hey, that's awesome. That is awesome. Congratulations, definitely, for being #1 bestseller. Did you ever think that you would be writing books?
Never. No. Well, actually, you know what? I shouldn't say that. I've been writing most of my life. The first story that I ever had published was in an anthology that my school division put together. So each school within the school division would have top students submit works for each grade. So you had, grades 1 through 12 submitting 1 or 2 works each from each school. And then they compile them into this anthology each year. And the people who were selected used to get to go, and it was like a weekend workshop where you'd get to meet professional writers and authors and stuff like that. And
oh, nice.
I remember having at least 3 or 4 different works published in that.
Okay, so you were published before now.
Yeah. So and it's funny because I didn't really think about that until after The Power to Speak Naked came out. And I was talking about how rewarding it was to be a published author. And it was actually my mom that pointed it out to me. She's like, Tyler, you've been a published author since you were 8. And I went, what? And she pulled out the anthology and she's like, remember? And I was like, oh, you're so right. I forgot about that. And so I've always, but I mean, again, I've always been in the arts. For me, it's as natural as breathing. Like I've been performing my entire life and writing my own plays and doing my own things like that. So the storytelling portion has always been something that I've done. And it's just one more extension. But I never in my life thought that I would have a book that you could walk into a Barnes and Noble and pick up off the shelf and scan the UPC code on the back and pay for it at a counter. Like that was never a thing that it just wasn't on my radar. It wasn't it's not that I would ever limit myself that way. I just really genuinely just didn't think about it until it happened.
Oh, that makes it even more awesome.
Yeah.
Right? There's no limits, no area that can't be touched, right? So, wow, that's great. That's great. So,
Well, and
talking about the book, can you give us some tips on how we can get over stage fright?
yeah. Well, first of all, uh, thank you for saying stage fright, because stage fright is a real thing. Fear of public speaking is a myth.
Yeah.
They have all these statistics, right? And like, I think it's the one that gets used the most. 77% of North Americans have some form of anxiety around public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And although I understand where that number comes from and the studies that show it, and I mean, it's even used in the press material, I think, for the book. Like my publisher, really likes to tout that number. I actually had them take it off of the back. We put some statistics on the back about the study for how it impairs your wages and reduces your chance of getting a promotion because public speaking is a leadership skill.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd asked them to take off this 77% of North Americans have this anxiety over public speaking, because we don't.
Mm-hmm.
If we actually feared public speaking, so this is the first step, right?
Okay.
I want you to demystify this misconception that we're afraid of public speaking.
Okay, here, break it down for us.
If you were genuinely afraid of public speaking, if 77% of the world was afraid of public speaking, commerce as we know it would collapse. Because we'd never be able to go to a bank. We'd never be able to go to a restaurant. Like if you have at any point in your life gone into a restaurant and ordered food, guess what? You spoke in public.
There it is.
Very likely to a stranger, because you probably didn't know your wait staff, and you asked for something that you wanted and you got it. So in doing all of those things, you are completely and totally debunking this fear of public speaking, because it usually comes down to, oh, I can't speak in public. Why? Oh, I can't talk in front of strangers. Okay, why? Well, I'm afraid to ask for what I want. Well, have you gone to a restaurant? Because you did all those things.
Yep, it's true.
So let's call it what it is, and it's what you refer to it as: stage fright. Stage fright is real.
Yes, it is. Stage
fright is an auto response, probably triggered in the hippocampus, and a fight or flight response to a stimulus that our mammalian brain feels we're being attacked. Why do we feel that we're being attacked, though, when we're standing up on stage? And that's the real key, is that the majority of people who have this anxiety around public speaking are afraid of not speaking in public, but the fear of public judgment. We're afraid that the words that we're going to say in public are going to be misconstrued, misunderstood, or that somehow, we're playing that imposter syndrome, right? Somebody else has done it better. Somebody else has done it quicker. Somebody else has done it bigger. Somebody else has made more money. Somebody else has lost more weight, whatever it is, right? Someone else is better than who I am doing this. And who am I to be speaking this? Who's going to listen? My story doesn't matter. My story isn't interesting. All of these stories that we tell ourselves in our head before we ever open our mouth, we are really where the judgment is coming from, not the audience.
Self-sabotage.
It's self-sabotage. And so the first secret to really overcoming stage fright is recognizing that you're not afraid of public speaking, you're afraid of public judgment.
Yes.
And then the next secret to that is understanding that there's no need to be afraid of public judgment, because if you are telling your story or you're sharing your point of view, no one else knows it better than you. So you are the authority of that messaging, even if somebody else has done it better, right? Can Ben Johnson talk about being an Olympic athlete, even though, Usain Bolt has shattered every record that Ben Johnson ever had, and Ben Johnson got caught doing steroids? Does Ben Johnson still have a story to tell? Absolutely.
Of course he does. Yes.
Does it matter that Usain Bolt has done it better, right? Can Tiger Woods still have a conversation with Jack Nicholson. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Or Jack Nicklaus, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't matter who it is. You know, Connor McDavid, for all of my Canadian friends, Connor McDavid, arguably one of the greatest hockey players ever to live now. Wayne Gretzky is looking at him saying, this kid's going to shatter my records. Alexander Ovechkin is about to and would have shattered Wayne Gretzky's scoring title if it weren't for a couple of lockouts. And he's still on pace to do it. The kid's only 36 years old. He's still got 4 years left on his contract. And he is going to outscore literally the person who's called the great one, Wayne Gretzky, right? Wow. So it doesn't matter that somebody else has done it better than you. You are still doing it at some level. And there is somebody who isn't doing it at your level who would love to know your secrets. So if somebody has shown up to hear you speak, and this is the third key, the audience is on your side, or they wouldn't show up. Even if you have been told that your boss has come in and says, Chris, you have to give this presentation in the boardroom to your coworkers. Mm-hmm. Even in that scenario, they're still on your side.
True.
Because think of the last time you had to go to any meeting that your boss told you had to go to. If you really didn't want to go, don't you kind of have like a thing that you got to do? Even if you don't, you're like, I got this thing that I got to do, and I can't make that meeting.
Right.
So you show up. And when you show up to that meeting, it's the same as, a movie gets released and it gets like 1 on Rotten Tomatoes or a Metacritic score, and like the audience reaction, like all of your friends are like, don't even waste your time. Don't even waste your money. It's a horrible film. You won't even like it. But you're like, yeah, but I really kind of wanted to see it, And so despite everybody's input and despite everybody's telling you, don't go see this movie, you buy the ticket. And when you sit down and that theater starts to darken and the curtains part and the music starts and the trailers are done, what are you hoping secretly? Even though everybody's told you it's going to be horrible, what are you hoping secretly? You're like, well, it can't be that bad.
Right.
Come on. It's got to be at least a little good.
Right?
Somebody made it, right? And it's the same when you are in any presentation. Your thought is not, like the last time you were sitting in a boardroom, did you think when somebody stood up, did you think to yourself, man, I hope this sucks. I hope this is the worst presentation I've ever been to. I hope the speaker forgets everything that they're talking about. I hope they make absolutely no point. And I hope I come away with this with absolutely nothing.
No.
Like people who are tuning into the glass half full are like, I really hope Chris brings on a good guest today.
Yes.
Right? Like they tuned in here not thinking, man, I hope Tyler Foley sucks. They tuned in going, hey, I don't know who is this guy. He's got a book with a naked dude on the cover. Like maybe this will be interesting.
Right.
Your audience is on your side. So those are the 3 keys to getting over stage fright initially. There's a lot more that goes into it, and psychology and breath work and preparation, all of these things combined. But the first 3 keys are recognizing that you're not afraid of public speaking. You're afraid of public judgment.
Yes. Public judgment.
But the public isn't judging you. We're very self-centered organisms. Like I care about me and really only me. And so if I am in that audience, I'm already on your side. I want it to be good because otherwise it's a waste of my time. So I expect that you're going to be good. I don't think you're going to suck. I think you're going to be great. And if you speak from the heart, if you tell your truth, your story, your way, nobody can refute it because nobody knows you better than you. Even if you're having to give last quarter's sales statistics, if you speak from what they mean to you, this is my interpretation of this information. This is how it impacts me. This is how I feel about it. And then turning it around to your audience and asking, how do you feel about it? That's when you have a really good, solid presentation, and you don't need to be afraid of this imposter syndrome because nobody can refute how you feel about something.
That's true.
And that's really the key.
Nice. I hope you listeners got that. If not, they can rewind it and take those notes down or go ahead on and get that book, The Power to
Yes.
Speak Naked, where they can go head on and get the fullness of what you're talking about. So how do I discover my audience?
Well, it's funny because this is actually, it's when I tell it to you, it's going to seem so simple, so easy. And there are two methods that I teach in all of my training courses.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's the big one, right? It's the big one that the audience comes, and particularly when they're coming to my events, because usually they're paying, $1,500 for a ticket for 2.5 days.
Wow.
And like,
okay.
and this to them is the secret sauce. This is what they want to know, right? Like, hey, I'm going to so the big promises that we give for the events are, you're going to walk away knowing what your 5 powerful stories are,
Mm-hmm.
how to connect them, how to use them to connect with your audience. And then you're going to find out who your audience is. And everybody's like, great, because when I know who my avatar is, then I can advertise to them. I can target them. We can do all this stuff. I can change lives. I can change, and you can. But I swear, I feel bad for my audience members when they do it, because we're about to discover, your audience is about to discover this in like 5 seconds.
And we appreciate you for sharing it.
So, the first ideal audience for you, your ideal avatar, your ideal client, is you 5 to 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
What were you struggling with? What were your successes? What tools did you have in your toolkit that helped you be where you were at that point, that you continue to use? What were the things that you needed to augment in that toolkit? What did you need to use to grow? Like, what personal growth did you need to go through? What obstacles did you need to overcome? What were the adversities and challenges in your life? What was the support that you had? What additional support did you get to come to that? Who you were 5 to 10 years ago is who you need to speak to now, because that is where you are in your zone of genius, because you've already overcome all of those obstacles. Now you just have to speak to literally your younger self. Hey, younger self, when you were struggling with X, Y, Z, I empathize with you. I was there. I struggled with X, Y, Z, and this is what I had, and I tried this and this and this and this, and it didn't work, but I discovered this and this. And I implemented this in my life and I saw this benefit. And then I implemented this in my life and I saw this benefit, and I made this change. And suddenly now I'm here. And if you, my younger self, 5, 10 years ago, want to get to where I am right now, here in the present, this is how you do it. These are the steps that I took, and I think they will work for you.
Wow.
And you will notice that every really effective communicator, every top-notch coach, sales consultant, business mind, guru, that's the model that they follow.
Mm-hmm.
They're not telling you theoretical information. They're telling you, I researched this, I tried this, I did this. This is who I was back here, and this is where I go now. And if you identify with who I was back here, this is how I did it, and now I'm going to charge you money to learn how to do it the way that I did it. And that's how you find your first ideal avatar. It's you 5 to 10 years ago. And one of the key points to that is you want to speak from scars, not wounds. And what I mean by that, your scars have healed over. Those are the lessons. You can point to the scars on your body and say, hey, let me tell you about how I got this.
Yes.
But it's healed over, and now it's no longer an issue for me. Where if you have an open wound that's still festering, that stuff is raw. You haven't healed from that. Don't speak about that. That is not a thing that you have overcome yet. That's a fresh wound, right? So you want to make sure that what you are speaking on is a thing that you have mastered. Even if it's only one thing, that one thing, again, speak to yourself 5 years ago, because that person who hasn't overcome that needs to hear that message.
Wow, that's great.
That will give you your first flood of them. And there's some other people, and I know because I was that person, right? Here, are you ready? I'm speaking from experience now, speaking to myself 5 years ago. I thought, I haven't had any adversity. I haven't needed to overcome anything. So how can I speak to this great aha moment if I haven't even had an aha moment?
Hmm.
Fair point. Second avatar. Who comes to you the most for advice, and what advice are they asking for, and what advice do you give?
Okay.
That's your second avatar. So for me, the thing that people ask me the most is, how do you do it? And as we've already discussed, what they're asking is, how do you get up on stage and be so damn confident, so compelling, so engaging? And I had to go, well, this is the process. These are the steps that I took. This is kind of my internal process.
Mm-hmm.
And then people would be like, oh, that's great. Can you write it down? I'm like, no, I'm too busy to write it down, but I'll speak it out, and you can have the book.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's all I did. I and that avatar, and I got really specific on it. So the people who were typically coming to me asking about that, there were actually two subsets. The one, female entrepreneurs and charity directors.
Oh,
usually
okay.
between 35 and 55.
Mm-hmm.
The charity directors I understood perfectly, and usually the female entrepreneurs, their business had some form of social good component to it.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever their business was trying to give back to society. So even though it wasn't a charity, it still had a charitable component to it, or a social cause tied to it, and that was why the business got underway. Okay. The second subset within that avatar was typically male CEOs or high-level execs, not necessarily C-suite,
Mm-hmm.
but upper middle management and upper management, who had been thrust into leadership positions because of their technical understanding of business,
Mm-hmm.
who were then being required to lead these teams and speak to these groups of people when they didn't themselves feel comfortable, or a lot of them struggled with imposter syndrome, because who am I to be leading these people? I was these people 6 months ago, and now all of a sudden I'm their boss. I don't know how to talk to them. Mm-hmm. And so those two are very distinct subset avatars for me, because they're the ones who come to me the most asking for advice. And the advice that I give them is almost always the same. So my advice to those groups is different, but if I'm targeting them as avatars, the stories and the language that I use to attract them, to resonate with them, is vastly different.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So there you go. 2 ways to figure out who your avatar is.
Yeah. I never thought about that, of thinking about, the past self, and thinking about where you were 5 or 10 years, and it's exactly the things that brought you to where you are today. Definitely something you can really explain. And like you say about the wounds and the scars, it's true. Mm-hmm. Being able to talk about things that you can talk about. In my profession, I'm a voice teacher, and a vocal coach. And lots of times people are coming in with other issues besides the voice. As a teacher, sometimes you become the counselor, and you become, you're dealing with other things. And when it falls out of what I can't do, I always suggest to go to a professional who is able to really help with that, because it's not something that I might have experience in, so.
And Chris, just on that note, isn't it amazing how somebody's past trauma can directly influence their voice?
Yes, it is huge. It is huge. It is huge.
The constriction we hold in our body tightens every muscle, including our throat.
Yes.
And it's amazing, as somebody who is a professional speaker and somebody who coaches people to speak, I know, because I bring in professional vocal coaches. Like when we run our big event, the last event that I ran here in Calgary, we had Roger Love come
nice.
to help people with their voice. And I mean, this is a guy who has, helped with the coaching on The Voice. He helped Bradley Cooper find his singing voice for A Star Is Born.
Yes.
I love working with Roger. He is just so much fun. But it's so critical, because you can hear when people are, and we all know it, right? You've had an emotional trigger, and you're trying to somebody. I always think of somebody who's speaking at a funeral or a wedding. Mm-hmm. And they get restricted, and you can hear, people know when you're about to break down, because you hear it in your voice. It starts to get squeaky, it gets a little tight, and then I can't talk, right? And it's amazing. But what I'm always fascinated by is the hidden traumas. Like that's an obvious trigger, right?
Yes,
In
it
a
is.
wedding or a funeral, we know what the emotional charge behind it is, but it's the people who start and they're tight, especially for me when I'm doing my musicals. Like
Mhm.
I'm prepping to do The Music Man here in January, and
Oh,
we have a
nice.
2-week run.
Are you in the show, or you're just
Oh yeah,
directing? Okay.
yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I'm playing Mayor Shin.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's
You're in.
Yeah, it's gonna be super fun. But
Yes.
I'm 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 constantly hearing where people in just their general life, I'm like, I know when there's something wrong, and people are like,
Mhm.
"Whoa, are you psychic?" And I'm like, "No, I can hear how
We can
tight your
tell in the
vocal
voice.
cords
Yeah.
are. Like if you got a pretty good diamond factory going down in that sphincter. You are tightly wound, my friend, like
Mhm.
drum tight. Like
Something's going on.
let's see what's going on here." And they're always amazed. I'm like, I can hear, because I've been around people who speak as a profession for 35 years. I know when you're off your game.
Mhm.
And it amazes me, and I'm glad that you recognize that because there's very few people who I can have this conversation with where I'm like, that's a
Yes.
thing, right?
And it has to be worked out because we hit this wall and we can't get past because there's this that we're dealing with. So sometimes it unlocks more than, what is expected in a lesson. Sometimes people break down and they have to get out what they're dealing with, or they want to talk about it. And then we can get through the lesson at some point. And if not, sometimes it's just the talking about it was the lesson and they're feeling better
Yeah,
after the end of it. So yes, it's
yeah.
huge. Nice, 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 nice. Good luck with the music, man. I'm sure it'll be great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's going to be a really fun production. I actually am a last minute fill in. The original mayor that they had cast had to step away from the production, and they're like, at this point we're 4 weeks to curtain, and I stepped in 2 weeks ago, and the director is a good friend of mine, and she phoned me up in a panic. She's like, "What are you doing in January?" I'm like, I actually taken 2 weeks off. Why? She's like, "You don't have 2 weeks off
She's like,
now.
we need
Can you
you.
come? Can you come play Mayor Shin?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. That seems like a really good time."
When's the last
It's
time
only
that
like
you've had it been in the musical?
I've never actually performed in Music Man. I had prepped for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I uh, I was going to be in a production of it back in the late '90s, and so I had studied it. But I was going to play Professor Hill.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm familiar with the story. I'm familiar with the music,
Mm-hmm.
but not with this particular role. So it kind of got thrust on me, and I'm like, so I don't get to sing Trouble,
I was about to
like,
say that's the song, right? You would say, I don't
because
get to do
that's my
it.
favorite bit.
Yes.
And yeah, so I don't get to do that, but I get to sing Shapoopy and some other really fun songs, and it'll be like I said,
Nice.
it'll be good, and it's one of those things that just kind of fell in and works with my schedule. And if it was any other time, I wouldn't have been able to do it because later in January I'm actually gone, and all of February is written off. I'm officiating a friend's wedding in Mexico.
Wow.
I'm at an event. Like I've
Yeah,
got
you're
so many things
busy.
that are going on.
You're
Yeah,
busy,
I'm a
definitely.
busy. Like it's funny because I was actually at the hairstylist getting my haircut, and he wanted to schedule me in for the next haircut. And he's like, "Do you know what?" He's like, when do you want to get your haircut?" I'm like, "Oh, 6 weeks from now would probably be the right time because I kind of need to, I'll be done the show, and then I need to go on the road again, and I want to be tidied up and clean." He's like, "Oh, do you know what your schedule is 6 weeks from now?" I looked at him, I said, "I know what my schedule is 6 months from now, and it won't change much." So
Yeah, there it is, right? Nice,
yeah.
nice, nice. Before the Music Man, when was the last time you had performed in the musical?
It was a brand new musical written by an incredible playwright and composer, Maren Burnham, who professionally most people know her as Maren Ord. She had music that was on the show Felicity for a while.
Okay.
Um, Juno nominated, which is the Canadian version of the Grammys.
Okay.
She's just a phenomenal composer, and she put together a production called Feather Pen Fairy Tales, which is a
Oh.
really nice kind of family friendly musical with seriously some of the best music I've ever heard in my life. And then she while we were performing that show, she was actually writing another show called The Gardener. And I've had the chance to workshop that over COVID.
Oh, nice.
And that show, oh man, that needs to find its audience. That is, and I'm a Broadway geek. Like I've studied musicals for 40 years, you know, and I've been in some great musicals that I've been in, you know.
You were in Ragtime, right?
I was in Ragtime. God, I love Ragtime.
I love it.
You know, to this day, it breaks my heart that it came out the same year as The Lion King, because The Lion King is great, but I think that Ragtime is better, and Lion King won all the Tonys. But
it's
whatever,
true. It was
just
yeah, exactly.
It had the power of the mouse behind it, and what were you going to do, right?
It's true. It's true.
But I mean, to this day, like when my daughter was born, I still sing Sarah Brown. Like it was her lullaby was Sarah Brown Eyes. I would sing it to her at night. And I just love that musical. But I mean, I was in that. I was in Carousel, nice. Damn Yankees, My Fair Lady. Like you picked the musical. You know, Miss Saigon. I love Miss Saigon.
Wow, that was the first musical I saw in my whole life. Miss Saigon.
Isn't it phenomenal?
So amazing. I was moved.
It is easily in my top 5. And then like, and even like when it comes to like Disney shows, my favorite animated Disney movie of all time is Hunchback of Notre Dame because of the score. On it.
The opening number is everything for me. When
isn't it?
Yes, like it's one of my favorites too.
That musical makes my soul sing. So with that in mind, Chris, know that I think this new musical that Marin has penned called The Gardener is better than everything that I've just name dropped in the last 5 minutes combined.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
You know what? I'm going to make sure that I share with you the score when I'm able to.
Okay.
Just so that you can hear some of the music. And the storyline behind it is so complex yet simple and so moving and joy-filled and heart-wrenching all at the same time. Like the characters in it are rich and so well written and so well explored, and the music that supports that storyline is just it's stuck in my head now, and I think that I've heard it from the radio, and I haven't. I know these songs now because of all the workshopping that I've done with it. But those are the last 2 projects that I was involved in the last 24 months before I got to the Music Man. Was those 2 originals.
Super exciting. I love when there's a great piece. I, as well as I shouldn't say retired. Well, I guess I could say retired because I haven't. Broadway singer. And being involved in some musical or work of art that you feel really touches your soul is powerful. It's like it stains you. You know, you're just left with this idea of the magic that is presented. So that's awesome that you could be a part of that. And I would love to hear it if the opportunity focuses that I can. So please keep me in mind.
No, I like, I'm going to email Marin and be like, I need to share a couple of the tracks, and she won't care. She'll be fine. And specifically what I'll be sharing with you is a track called More Time. Which is phenomenal. And then, what's the other one? Take My Hand. Take My Hand is everything that Broadway loves. It's thematic. It's poppy. It's this. And the thing about Marin's composure, and you will understand it when you hear it, she is like everything Rodgers and Hammerstein would want to be, and Sondheim, and then like all the modern day composers. So like she has all this classical sensibility from like the peak era, like, you know, the 50s musicals, and then like modern scores, things like Ragtime and even, you know, Hamilton. Like she's this perfect blend of it where it feels so familiar because she's so good with both lyrics and score and composition and harmonies and
Wow.
like everything. Oh God, I love her music.
And what is her name again?
Maren Burnham is what she is currently, but professionally she's Maren Ord, O-R-D.
O-R-D. I'll have to check her out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Giving me good information over here. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And honestly, the world needs to know her name again, because she's known as a pop artist.
Oh,
right?
is
So
she?
she had, again, right, like late 90s, Felicity was on TV.
I remember
and
the
her
show.
Song was on a whole bunch of episodes of Felicity. Okay. And it was kind of like the song of the season for that show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, heyday, and she got a lot of press from that, ended up working with Randy Bachman from Bachman Turner Overdrive. Mm-hmm. And she was taking care of business with him. and writing some really good music, and just kind of drifted off the scene for a little bit because she wanted to focus on first of all her family, and then a little bit more of these creative pursuits where it wasn't just pop songs and recording pop albums, but really writing these musicals. I'm so thankful that she took the time off, but it's so unfortunate that kind of momentum that she built up in the late 90s, early 2000s kind of dropped off, because here we are 20 years later. Mm-hmm. And she's got all of these incredible works, and they need to find their audience, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that happens.
Well, then I believe it will happen. Definitely. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for the details, for sure. Well, I know you enjoy a good laugh, and that you are quite funny yourself. So I thought we could play a game.
I love games. Let's do games.
I love a good game too. The game is called Would You Rather? So I'm going to ask you a few questions, actually 5 questions, and just give me your answer, what comes into your head about the choices that we have. Question number 1. Would you rather have 2 items of your choice or 1 person of your choice if you were lost in the woods?
1 person of my choice.
Okay. Why?
Way better resource. 2 heads are better than 1. And although I could have the 2 like tools or whatever that I needed, somebody else to A, keep you sane, and B, bounce ideas off of is way, way better. But if I want to build a shelter, it's going to go 3 times as fast having 1 other person. And so from a survivalist standpoint, I would definitely want to have 1 other person instead of 2 tools of my choice.
Yeah, I agree too. Definitely. 2 heads are definitely better than 1. Nice. Question number 2. Would you rather read minds or be able to communicate with people in their dreams?
Communicate with people in their dreams.
Oh, okay. Any special reason why?
People's thoughts are scary. I wouldn't want anybody to read my mind, and I certainly wouldn't want to read somebody else's mind. I don't mind being a little bit of intuitive and understanding and empathizing with people. But if I could really, truly reach people in their soul, that would be great. And that I think being able to speak to them in their dreams would be the key to that. So
nice,
I would choose that.
Yeah, it's probably less noisy, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I've seen what women want. It's terrifying.
Would you say I'll hold back from that? I'll hold back. Next question, number 3. I think I might know the answer to this one. Would you rather have movies or music as your only entertainment for the rest of your life?
Music.
Yes, I would say this
because I can see the movies in my head from what the music is playing. But if you stripped music away from me, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. My wife and I actually have a rule in the house where I'm not allowed to sing before noon.
Oh no! Are you kidding?
Well, no, because my voice gets stuck in her head and then she gets really, really mad. But everything to me is a song. Like, you can't say a thing where I don't tie it back to a song and I have a song playing. I have a soundtrack to my life that it just goes through.
I love that.
That show, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, is my life.
Oh, wow.
Like, if in my head, I think people should, in reality, break into song and dance, choreographed routines the way that they do in the movies. I don't know. It disappoints me that that's not reality.
Well, it is in my reality. I mean, I live alone, so I sing back answers. I've been doing it since I was a child. And it's so normal that I don't realize that I've sung it back until people look at me like, what? And I'm like, oh, did I just sing that back? Like,
sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
How was that?
I love
was
it.
it good?
I love
Did
it.
you like it?
Yes. Did we say, did you get it?
How pitchy was that? Was that the tone? Did I hit that right?
Right?
Did you know the tune? Yeah.
Little something, something. So, yeah, I agree. I just having a dance, I'm always dancing through. I always think like people must walk by my apartment feeling like, oh, he's having a party. And it's just me inside.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's me.
Next question. Would you rather have a big head with a small body or a big body with a small head?
Ooh. I wouldn't want either, but if I had to pick,
yeah, right.
Probably the small head.
Oh, okay.
With the big body. Not because I particularly want a big body, because I'm not really a big fan of big bodies, but I think like a big head would look like, I think the one looks way more awkward than the other, and I am too vain to allow that to happen in my life. So I would think the lesser of the two evils would probably be the smaller head. Which would
because the
big
head, you're like walking around, it's heavy, so it's probably leaning you to the left and right. You're probably not walking straight, you know.
And, you know, people would look at you and be like, how does that frame support that head? Where if you have this massive body, they're like, oh, his head just looks small because he's swole.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah,
I like that. Yes.
I would go with that.
Oh, good answer.
I would hate both.
Yeah, right. Who would want either? But yeah, they're out there. Yeah. Next question. This is interesting. Would you rather lick the inside of a toilet or wash your hair with toilet water?
Oh, wash my hair with toilet water.
Yeah, I'd take the toilet water too. Because if it's clean, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's actually, you know, again, so back to the survivalist, do we want to get, you know, two people or one person or two tools? You know, the toilet bowl itself is actually not as filthy as people think. The bottom of your shower is actually got more bacteria and germs in it than the inside of your toilet bowl.
What?
And true story.
How do you know this, Tyler? Please enlighten
because
us.
So here's the thing. And again, my wife will tell you, I am a cesspool of random knowledge. It doesn't do me a lot of good a lot of time, but there are few times where I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's a thing. Wow. But yeah, because just the way that, you know, a toilet bowl, like everybody thinks like, you know, excrement, but you're flushing all that down. And if you maintain a toilet properly, like if you're like my uncle and you haven't cleaned your toilet in 18 months, this probably doesn't apply. But if you maintain regular cleaning habits and are cleaning your toilet every 2 to 3 weeks or a month, the bowl, because you're constantly flushing water because it has constant water flow to it. Okay. And it's actually not that bad. I wouldn't lick the bowl because that's filthy and there's obviously going to be bacteria, but the water itself to shampoo your hair was actually not entirely, it's feels more disgusting than it actually is.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I mean, ideally in the shower, the water is going down, you know, the water is running, but it still would be dirtier just because everything is settling.
It's concentrated into a single area and and it's such a large surface area and you're tracking all that bacteria in, and then it's it's a moist surface without being a flushed surface. So it's right. Think of like the last time you had to like scrub the bottom of the shower and you're like, what is this grime? How did it get here? I go into the shower to get clean. So how is it that my feet are making this stain pattern here? This is disgusting. And it's because of all that bacteria that just kind of sits and collects there, like soap, scum. And like, you just think of all the things that are in the bottom of your shower that just don't exist in your toilet bowl. You're welcome for this digression.
I love that you know a little bit about everything. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I have a friend who reads the dictionary in their free time, and he is the same. He knows a lot of information about all kinds of things. So nice. That was a good answer. Very explanatory. Definitely. Okay, one more question. I
always rationalize my answers.
Yeah, hey, that's it. As long as you can back it up, we're down. Last question. Would you rather go back in time to meet Muhammad Ali or Joan of Arc?
Joan of Arc.
Ooh, okay. What would you say? What would you do to meet Joan of Arc? What would you tell her?
Oh, I wouldn't tell her a thing. That is meeting somebody like that is not a tell the thing. I wouldn't tell Joan of Arc a thing. I would ask a lot of questions.
Okay. Sorry.
And I would just sit and absorb everything from her. How does she feel about her position? Does she think of herself as a leader? Does she think of her? Well, and you wouldn't be able to say, do you think of yourself as a martyr? Because I'm assuming I'm talking to her while she's still alive.
Yeah, she's still alive. You couldn't say that.
Hey, Joan, heads up. This doesn't end well for you. But don't worry. You'll have a great reputation.
Right.
How did she feel about growing up as a rural farm girl? Because that's how she started. And I would be fascinated by that because I myself grew up on a farm. And I would just be fascinated to know, particularly in that day and age, to be a female of power. I grew up around strong women. My mom is an incredible role model to me because of what she had to sacrifice for me and my sister, and how she did it with grace and with ease.
Yes.
And she made it look effortless. My Aunt Terry is an incredibly gifted and strong woman herself. My mom, in order to provide the best life for me and my sister, leased out rooms in our house. So at one point I had 8 women in the house with me. And, and they were all incredible women. There was one was a radio DJ, one was a security guard, a couple of teachers, musicians. I always want to know where women, particularly like Joan of Arc, like that is a very patriarchal society that she was in, very male dominated.
Yes.
How did you find the strength to do that? And do you know the legacy that you're going to leave?
Yes.
Do you understand the gravity of what you're doing for the French people? Just for so many reasons, Joan of Arc. Not that Muhammad Ali is not a great figure.
No, I get it.
But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a pugilist, and I'm not really. I'm definitely a lover, not a fighter. So yeah, hey, good. I'm glad that you can hit people in the face and make a lot of money doing it. Tell me how that pans out for you in 30 years.
Exactly. Okay. For sure. Yeah. No, that's a great answer. And I grew up in a single parented home. My mom is one of those she's a strong Black woman. And the might and the wisdom and all that I have learned, I am amazed with my grandmother and my great aunts, all of them being so powerful and maybe not the highest educated because they weren't able to finish school, my grandmother and my great aunt, but still so smart and so wise, so strong, so capable. So awesome. Great answer. Answer.
I love hearing of a great matriarch. Yes. That brings me joy.
Yes, me too. Nice. Thanks for playing the game with me. That was fun.
Well, I was so happy to get to do it. Those are my favorite. I love theoreticals like that.
Yeah, they can go any kind of way, right? It can go any kind of way. Let me ask you, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, I want to be known as the father of Mackenzie Foley.
Oh.
And my daughter will be my legacy. If somebody, 100 years from now, somebody Googles my name or whatever search engine we have 100 years from now, if we even have the internet, maybe somebody just thinks my name and it pops up in their Oculus glass that's been implanted inside of their eye. I don't know how it will work 100 years from now. right? It's like going
Yeah,
back and looking at sci-fi from 2000, and they're projecting the year 2022, and there's like flying cars, and we're in 2021 right now, going,
like, where
I
are the
can't wait to
cars?
see what the next 9 months brings, because I don't think it's that.
Yeah, no, me either.
But if a historian looks back and is doing research on my name,
Mm-hmm.
I want the first thing that pops up is that I am the father of the famous, for whatever she chooses, Mackenzie Foley. That she, she's changed the world, and I was lucky enough to be one half of the equation that brought her here and raised her to be able to do what she did.
Wow, that is so special. That is so special. How old is she?
She's 6 right now.
Oh, wow.
She's going to take on the world, my friend.
Wow. Well, with you as her dad, I'm sure that she can handle whatever's going to come, for sure. I don't know your wife, but I'm sure she must be an amazing individual as well. So.
Oh, she's incredible. Yeah, she's one of the smartest, most driven, most determined women I've ever met in my life. And I've just listed all of the great ones that have come before her that have inspired me. And she was the reason. I never even thought I wanted to get married until I met my wife.
Wow.
I was going to be a perpetual bachelor. And then she's just, I have never met somebody who sees the world in such a clear and dynamic way. Like she sees the pieces and puts them together in a combination that I will never understand, and I am always in awe of. And I'm definitely the weaker half of the parenting duo, and I'm happy to be it. I'm happy to be it, because if I'm the weaker half, my daughter has a bright future.
Oh, listen to dad. Spoken like a true dad, definitely. Nice, very nice. I quickly want to ask you about Tyler's Tuesday tips.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Or sometimes it's Friday Foley fun facts, depending on the day they fall on.
Yeah, well, so we've actually kind of lost the Foley's Friday fun facts, just because it was getting to be a lot of content, and it was what was the difference between a tip and a fact?
Yes.
So we've concentrated on the Tyler Tuesday tips, and the Tuesday tips have actually moved from what was just kind of a general posting that I would put up on Instagram and Facebook out of my regular accounts, and we've actually migrated them into a private Facebook group. So it's a free Facebook group called Endless Stages, but anybody who is really enjoying the Tyler Tuesdays, and we had a really nice following for it, can now come into the Endless Stages group and get tips on public speaking, confidence, presentations, just all things, basically a rehash of all the main critical points out of the book, and then things that I've learned through 35 years. And then the nice thing about the group is that it can now direct the content, because we have active discussions within the group. And so when I'm chiming in, I go, oh, well, that's actually a thing that we can discuss on next Tyler's Tuesdays. And so I take 20 minutes each Tuesday and break down some topic. So like this upcoming Tuesday, from a discussion that we had in the group, very quickly, I was doing a Tyler Tuesday this Tuesday. I know you're all surprised to hear that. and the technology was not working very well for me.
Okay.
And so what was supposed to be the live webcam, like I have a very nice professional HD camera, because again, I'm vain and a film professional. I have the good equipment.
I was about to say, I'm sure you have the best equipment.
Was not working. And so it was, the feed was coming off of the really bad laptop camera, which is located close to my projection screen monitor. So when I'm doing live training, I actually have basically the wall behind me is my monitor, and so I can actually see the people in the Zoom room like they're actually in the room. It feels more like a stadium for me. So the camera sits in front so that I'm looking at them in the camera, but I can see them behind the camera, and it really makes it quite nice. But the laptop that controls that sits behind what my camera setup is and where I'm situated and located.
Mm-hmm.
So we go live into Tyler's Tuesdays, and everybody goes, whoa, and we were supposed to be training on how to write your bio. Like what's the difference between a bio and a speaker introduction, and how do you change it up and all the rest of that fun stuff. It was a really fun training. But again, this technical screw up had everybody looking at, they got to see behind the wizard's curtain. I was like, do not pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Don't look. Right. And so they got to see everything, and they're like, why do you have it set up like that? I'm like, oh, well, and I very briefly for 2 minutes took them through my studio and why it's set up the way that it is, why I have the sound baffling the way that I have it, where I have my mics placed, where I have the lights placed, why they're placed that way.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, oh, can you do that more? And so this upcoming Tyler Tuesday, guess what we're going to talk about?
Behind the scenes.
Tyler's setup, how to do it on a budget, how to make it happen, why the pieces that are critical, the pieces that you can get away without, and what you want to add as your budget increases for it. So
that's awesome.
Tyler Tuesday tips. We do it every Tuesday, 3:00 Eastern, noon Pacific, 1:00 Mountain Time.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, that's like the middle of the night.
Yes.
And and we do it live. We've tried to do recordings of it, but again, technology is not my friend over the last 3 weeks. So the last 3 weeks we've tried posting the recording, and it just hasn't worked out. But I try to make it so that you don't have to come live, but the people who do come live get their questions answered live. They have a little bit more interaction with me. And then we support the content throughout the week in the speaker group. So Endless Stages, if anybody wants to track it down,
that's with Michael Harris too, right? He's working with you.
That is, yes. And Michael is a genius. That man is, me and him met, I was speaking at an event with Les Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And Les was, he's been living with cancer for, I think, 20 years now. And he wasn't feeling good that weekend. Mm-hmm. And so the promoter brought me in as an emergency backup, just in case Les couldn't finish the event, which in this case, he had to step away, to preserve his health.
Mm-hmm.
And good for him to recognize it.
Yeah, that's smart.
And so I filled in for him, and Michael happened to be in the audience at that event, and he came and he spoke to me afterwards, and we just hit it off. And that man is a multiple 2-comma award winner from ClickFunnels. He's a yoga instructor. He's young at heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like me and him, we have such a good time and such an incredible rapport. And he's such an incredible business mind
mm-hmm.
and strategist, where I'm really on the creative side, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can look at somebody and I'd be like, stagecraft, content, and I just blah. He is the really nice counterbalance to me, where he's like, and don't forget this. And he brings such a unique gift to that group. And yes, he is one of my favorite human beings on the planet. And I'm so blessed to be able to work with him every day.
Wow. What an awesome compliment. That's really nice. Nice. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, if people do take a look at the Endless Stages now, then they will
mm-hmm.
see you and Michael. Definitely.
Yes. So and everybody else that's in the group. We have, here's the thing. The nice thing is it's Endless Stages for aspiring and professional speakers. And okay. We have exactly that. We have people who know they have a message, but they don't know how to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And we have people who, literally one of the members in the group outsold Tony Robbins at one of his own events.
What?
How cool is that?
Now that is awesome.
Just such a diverse amount of experience within that group, and everybody is so supportive. And I am so lucky to get to helm it. Because that's all I do. Captain of a ship, he just points the vessel in the direction that it needs to go. It's really the crew that pilot that thing from port to port and dock to dock. And for me, all I'm doing is guiding content, right? People ask the questions. I'm like, oh, hey, and putting people in and connecting and making sure that the conversations flow the way that they need to support the group so that everybody is learning and everybody's getting value out of it. And I'm just blessed to be the pretty face on the front cover. That's all I do.
We all need a pretty face on the front. Yes. No, definitely. That's awesome. The work is great. Really, really great. When I was reading about it, I was really impressed. Once again, something else that you have put on another hat for, or changed the hat to a different direction in the field of things that you're working on. Really nice. You had some great quotes listed up as well, and two of them really touched me. One was, if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. And that was Milton Berle. I love that.
Yeah.
And then one more was, life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Yes.
And that one was really powerful because, definitely there's a difference being comfortable and complacent. And sometimes we have to make sure that we are not mixing up the two, that we still are striving to do more. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's when really we're beginning to do the work. So really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of both those quotes. A lot of the stuff that I post, especially when I'm posting quotes, are things that really resonate with me, that strike me, and particularly getting outside the comfort zone, because, especially because I'm talking about speaking from stage, and most people limit themselves saying that they don't want to because they're afraid of stepping into that discomfort to really shine. And it's a shame, because the thing that the world needs to hear is very likely the thing that you're afraid to say.
All right.
Holding on to those messages and not sharing your story is actually a real disservice to society, because you never know who needs to hear it or whose life could be impacted by the knowledge that you have. And if you're afraid to share it, how can you make any kind of change?
Yes.
And so for me, it's one of the critical factors. And again, why I think my wife is so incredible. Every 3 years, she's advancing her career by pushing her boundaries, by pushing her comfort zone, by stepping into new challenges and taking on new things. And she does it in such a graceful yet methodical way that it truly is like witnessing a caterpillar go to a butterfly over and over and over and over again. The beauty of it is awe-inspiring because she does it so effortlessly. And I know for her internally, she's in full panic. She's just, I know how she works. Mm-hmm. But to the outside world, she just makes stuff happen.
Yes.
And God, I'm proud of her for it.
Oh, that's awesome. And, we can't see inside ourselves. No one can see inside. My sister used to tell me when I was young, if you're afraid, no one can look inside you and see the fear. So just pretend on the outside. And that's enough to make it through until you feel the courage to be able to go through. And there have been many times as on the stage or dealing with a client or student that I feel fear, but I just push through it. And yeah, like you're saying with your wife, sometimes I'm screaming on the inside. But on the outside, I still do what needs to be done and just trying to focus to try to give my best. And
that's the big misconception about courage. So many people think that courage is this lack of fear, and it isn't. You can't have courage without fear.
All right,
courage is doing the thing even though every fiber in your being is screaming at you not to.
Yes.
I am terrified to do this thing, and yet here I am going to do it. And I'm going to do it and do it and do it, and I'm going to conquer it. And that's where courage lies, is not allowing the fear to control you.
Yes.
Because again, fear, what's that famous, right? Fear is just false evidence appearing real. It just, it's our own story. It's our own perception. It's our own lens of the world that we have become complacent or comfortable in believing that version of the story.
Yes. Somehow we've believed it.
Right. And I think, look at the movie Maleficent, right?
Great movie.
It's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty.
Yes.
And now, right, what's wrong with Maleficent being the hero? Why does she have to be the evil fairy that transforms into a fire-breathing dragon? And why can't she be doing that for love instead of hate?
Yes.
right? All you have to do is just tell the story from a different point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really true courage, is understanding that it's just a story.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to change the script, rewrite it. You don't like the story, change it.
It's powerful. Yes. Nice. One more question for you. I like to close with this question to all of my guests. Is your glass half empty or half full?
Always half full.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I strongly believe that, there's an abundance in the world, and I don't have anything that is depleting, and it speaks to mindset too, right? If you're not in growth, you're in contraction. If you're in contraction, you're dying. And so I always want to be growing. So my glass is always half full.
Yes. We love that. We love that. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Just if they are enjoying the glass half full and everything that you're doing on this show, Chris, I would strongly encourage them to whatever platform they're listening to this or watching this, however they're consuming your content, to reward you for putting it out there, because I know how difficult it is, and to give you either a 5-star review or a thumbs up or a comment or a like or a share or whatever the platform provides, to let you know how you're doing, and say what content is resonating with them so that you can provide more and more of that. So make this interactive. If you're enjoying what Chris is doing, you right now, you listening, yes, you, if you're enjoying the glass half full, please, please, please take a moment, hit pause. You're on your device right now. So just hit pause, leave a comment, leave a like, share it, give it a review. Do whatever you can to get the message out if this is resonating with you, so that other people can learn from it as well.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, it's my joy, Chris.
Can you tell everyone how they can reach you?
Yeah. Best way to reach me, if they don't go to the Endless Stages Facebook group, or if they want to track it down and can't remember the name of it, SeanTylerFoley.com is my website. Sean is spelled the proper Irish way, SeanTylerFoley.com. Tell them Tyler sent you. Tell them Sean sent you. We'll all get confused. But, that's a story for another day. And SeanTylerFoley.com, we have Above the Fold is a clickable link that'll get you signed up to get you over to Endless Stages. We also have a whole bunch of free downloads there, support for anybody who wants to become a professional speaker or just wants to explore what speaking looks like. You don't have to be the next Tony Robbins. You don't have to want to be on the big stages. Maybe you just want to be more comfortable speaking in the boardroom, or even having a conversation with a loved one or a spouse, or not feel as awkward at dinner parties. All of these are places where you could have and improve your public speaking skills. And we want to make sure that we're serving everybody who does that. So pop on over to SeanTylerFoley.com. We can get resources for you in whatever capacity you need. And it's my pleasure to be able to serve in any way that I can.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Tyler, for being a guest on Glass Half Full. We're so glad you could take some time out to be with us today. Definitely.
Happy to be here, Chris.
Yes.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our listeners listening in to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform for everyone to share their life experiences. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Levens. Please subscribe, follow, and rate this podcast on Apple Music for more learning experiences. Until next time, know you are blessed. See ya.